The Glen Tavern Inn, Santa Paula, California. At least 100 videos have been posted on this hotel that you can see on YouTube. There's about 8 pages full, so I thought we'd come here and we might add one of our own. Constructed in 1911 and now on the National Register of Historic Places, this old hotel has been picked over by ghostbusters and ghost hunters for years and years and years. In fact, I don't think there's any more videos posted on any other websites other than perhaps about the Queen Mary and the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park that deal with ghost hunting. Oh, and of course Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, lest we forget that. But that covers in a complete area, not a specific hotel. The Ghost Adventures show has been here twice, as was the Dead Files. And there is a paranormal group of some kind which actually uses this hotel as their headquarters.
Come down,
The hotel boasts its own restaurant, which by the way was very good, especially the house tomato soup, but the hours and days are limited. As could be expected from a historic hotel, the lobby pretty much unchanged since it was constructed, and there's a lot of knickknacks in the display cases.
Antique stuff. The display case.
According to the claims, the activity centers around one room on the second floor, a couple on the third floor, and the manager's office, which is in the first floor near the lobby and at the end of this hallway.
Going down to room 106, which is the manager's room at the very end.
Investigators with equipment be forewarned, there is no elevator, and the stairway can be long and tedious. The rooms on the third floor, 307 being the most active, is the one that we picked. Supposedly, this third floor was some kind of a speakeasy, gambling parlor, brothel back in the 1920s, which would explain why there's no elevator. This was where people could stand up there, and in case the police were coming, they could see them from a mile away looking out the windows, and it would take a long time for the police to get up the stairway so that any evidence could be concealed by the time they got up there. The modern hotel has taken it upon themselves to replace all of the lighting in the third floor with red lights. I don't know whether that's an allusion as to the brothel days or whether it's just to enhance the ghost hunting experience. I know one thing, pretty damn hard to see if you're coming out of the broad daylight and carrying equipment up, until your eyes get adjusted to it. Rooms 307 and 308 are supposedly the room with activity, and they lie at opposite ends of this hallway. We chose room 307, which is supposed to be the most active one, and even though we thought we might have to book it in advance, it appears that not that many stay in here. We didn't have any problem booking 4 nights straight. The skylight in the ceiling of the bathroom is a real eye-opener after coming in from that dark hallway.
Wow, bright.
Yeah. Yeah, that skylight's sure bright, huh? Wow.
The furniture in this room, for lack of a better word, is old and ratty. I guess investigators have torn it up over the years, so they haven't wanted to replace it. We set up our usual array of equipment. The surveillance unit in this case would be running for 4 days straight. That's 96 hours. Claims of activity in room 307 are knocks and bumps against the headboard wall at night, and that fateful closet. The closet in room 307, according to history, was used to conceal 2 dead bodies throughout the years, one a prostitute and one a gambling cowboy. Of course, neither one of these is historically verified. Isn't that always the case with these older hotels? But everyone that stays in this room over the years claims that the closet door for some reason opens on its own, and everybody's tried to capture it, but so far as I could tell, nobody has. Everybody talks about it, but then they set their cameras up and they're like, well, it never repeated it, so we didn't actually catch it, but it did happen at one time when we were gone. And that pretty much amounts for the gist of all of the 100 or so videos that are posted, and I'm not exaggerating here. I think that Dustin Ehrenberg, who is one of the managers, has 74 videos posted on his site alone. I've looked through all of them and I could only find one that I thought had any compelling evidence. More about that one later. So I made sure that our primary camera with sound was pointed at the outside of that closet door and would stay there for the next 96 hours. And on the inside, a second camera facing the inside of the closet door. We want it from both angles in case this thing pops open. I then put a large suitcase in the closet with a cell sensor unit on top of it as close to the door as I could get, and tested it to make sure that it would function and pick up any EMF activity inside of the closet. As I exited the closet, I made certain that the door was firmly shut. One thing that was a mystery is that there is some kind of a bulb device attached to the top of the inside of the closet that does not appear to be a light, and I'm not certain what its function is.
There is a switch on the wall here, but this switch does not appear to do anything. When you flick it on, that does not come on up there. So I don't know what it is. You know something, I'm going to switch this to infrared. Let's see if it's going to have an effect on it here. So now we're doing IR, so we're emitting our own light. There, now we can see it. Since we got our own light going, it doesn't need to focus on the room's light. We can see that there is some kind of a bulb of some kind. There's something there. I don't know what it is. There's some wires there on the ceiling that seem to go into the ceiling itself. And then there's a sprinkler thing there for the fire code. That wire disappears, but I don't think that that's a light. We're going to have to go down and talk to the manager and find out what that is. If that's a light, if that is a light, then we need to have it replaced. Okay, so upon careful scrutiny, here's the mystery of the light right here. Apparently this light operates this little itty bitty light that's up on the wall right here. As I turn the switch, we're going to see that light go off. There it goes right there. So I'm not certain exactly what that's supposed to be, because that's not even big enough to basically just have a light. Maybe just to have very little light in the room so you could do an investigation. Not enough to light anything up. But that also means that there is no light inside of this closet.
After a completely uneventful night's rest, Jan woke up a little past 7 o'clock in the morning and got up to use the restroom. She walks past this supposedly haunted closet, down the hallway towards the front door, and then the door to the restroom is there on the left, probably a distance of about 20 feet or so. A few minutes later, she returns and goes back to bed. Once she's back in bed, I follow suit and do the exact same thing. Get out of bed, walk past the closet, all the way down that long hallway, down to the restroom, which is on the left. I have passed the closet completely. Now, as I step into the restroom, I'm only in there for a few seconds, when all of a sudden, the door opens up. Just like that. A few minutes later, I return back to bed and walk right past that closet door that's open, not even noticing that it is open. Heading back to bed, I would not notice that the door had come open until an hour and a half later. Here's the exact same occurrence of the door opening on its own, except this is the view from camera 4, which is inside of the closet. Note that when the door opens, the EMF cell sensor unit that is on the luggage right next to the door doesn't chirp, not even a single time. If it had chirped even just once, I'd definitely say this is paranormal. But without it going off, it's still a little suspect as to what might have caused it. Waking up a second time at around 9 o'clock in the morning and repeating my rounds is when I found that the closet door had popped open. You can hear me tell Jan that I thought that I had heard it come open at about 5 in the morning, but upon reviewing the tape, we found that that was inaccurate.
It did open. Jan, I thought I heard it come open.
Really?
Yeah. It's one thing to say always happens. The door opened by itself. It did. It's open. But the detector didn't go off in there.
I didn't notice anything.
I heard it. It was about maybe 5:30 or 6. So that's unusual. And I know that I shut it hard enough that it latched. That's one of the complaints about the door, is that this door will open on its own no matter how much it's latched, how tight that latch is, and sure as hell did it. So there is a little bit of activity there. I'm not certain exactly what it means. Very interesting.
Next step was to try to investigate this strange occurrence as much as we could on site without shutting the equipment completely down.
We can see here from this video that this door did come open on its own. There is some kind of activity here one way or another. This is one of the complaints that's always happened about this room. We have a camera up on the top shelf there that I put it this night earlier, and we're going to review the tape and find out exactly when it happened. The cell sensor is right here that I put on top of on one of the pieces of luggage, and I did not hear it beep, although when we run the tape back it might have gone off and perhaps I couldn't hear it through the door. We won't know that until we check the tape later on. So right now I'm going to go ahead and close the door again, and we'll see if it keeps coming open on its own. The latch is an older style latch, but when you shut it, it's firm. That's firm. That's just what I had it. You cannot pull it open on your own. That knob has to turn in order for that to open up. That's very interesting. So we'll review the tape later on when we get home. We'll find out exactly when it happened. We're going to keep this running the entire time we're here. We'll see how many times this actually does come open on its own. Here's a second oddity that I noticed, is that on Jan's nightstand here next to where she sleeps, the cell sensor unit that I put here in the evening before we went to sleep is now turned off. And I always check these devices after I set them up. So this unit has gone off just like the units did at the Stanley Hotel when we stayed there. I'll turn it back on here to show that it's still functional. So with that red line on it still on, it makes me wonder if maybe the one in the closet wasn't turned off also, which is maybe why we didn't hear it register when the closet door opened. This cell sensor unit that's on the cabinet underneath the television is still on. I believe that the REM pod is still functioning. The REM pod's alright. I checked the millimeter. That was still functioning properly. So everything's functioning except for that one unit.
The surveillance camera was too far away to see the red light and determine when this unit shut itself off. Since our hunt at the Stanley Hotel, one or more of them always manages to turn itself off. Preparing to go grab lunch, I put the suitcase and the cell sensor monitor back in the closet to see if maybe it also would turn itself off. We intend to mull over the evidence between ourselves while at lunch and make a decision as to whether to rerun the DVR footage while on location or wait till we get home to take a look at it. I'm still not confident that I can record while the DVR is in playback mode. And we don't want to miss any evidence captures that may occur while we have the DVR recorder in playback mode. Typically, evidence captures do occur when you have your camera equipment shut down. It's almost like they know. But the importance of being able to review that footage may take precedent over that risk. I did notice, as can be seen here, that when the door is shut solidly, it really shuts. But if it's not shut solidly, it basically pops open by itself within just a few minutes. At 1:40 in the afternoon, while we were out of the room and at lunch, the cell sensor unit in the closet that I thought might turn itself off began to activate. It wouldn't go off when the door was opening by itself, but now it starts going off on its own. The cell sensor unit is set on its hide mode, so that chirp right there is basically about 2 to 3 milligauss, about just breaking the area where it would start chirping. This would go on for 3 minutes straight and end just a couple of seconds short of actually right at 3 minutes. We would be unaware of any cell sensor activation until after we returned home and had a chance to review all of the footage. About 10 minutes later, we would return from lunch unaware of the cell sensor activation.
Wow, bright.
The skylight's too bright, huh?
Yeah.
At lunch, we made the decision to risk running the DVR footage back to see when the closet door had popped open. We also stopped by Ace Hardware and got some colored tape to put on the doorknob itself so that it would be easier for the camera to see. Upon playback, we saw that the closet had opened around 7:30 and not at 6 as I thought I had heard. My fears about the DVR unit also proved later to be unfounded. Once we got the unit back home, I found that with this particular DVR, it is able to record and play back simultaneously.
Don't do it right now. I'm not recording.
That's the best time.
What is that?
Is that all you can do? Is all the best? Is that the best you can do? Come on.
Now that we had a chance to review the tape on site, and we could see when and how it occurred, our next decision was to try to figure out if we could do something to make this door open on its own, jumping up and down, pounding on the walls, whatever we could think of.
No, the knob doesn't. The knob didn't
turn. Jack, is there a knob on the inside there? Open the door and see if there's a knob on the inside.
Yeah.
There is a knob on the inside.
I don't understand. No matter what you're gonna do. Well, you see it opened itself.
I'll be damned. The EMF detector did not go off.
Guess it's off. They probably learn how to bypass.
It's not off. You can see the light right there. It's on.
They probably learn how to bypass the detector. Go back to the bathroom. No, it doesn't move. You really need to.
This is what's going in right there, see? This is going in. You don't have to move the knob for that to go in. So, look, it's got a key lock to it. Somehow or another, it's moving that back. See that?
Yeah.
Without moving the knob, you can push that in. That's what it's doing. It's not turning the knob.
Well, you could push it in, but it won't stay.
So I'm saying, whatever it is instead of manipulating the knobs, it's getting in this crack right here. And it's opening that.
It's probably turning the knob, but it's so fast that the camera couldn't.
We'll find out that when we go back here and look at it. Right now, I want to.
When I turn the knob, it happens so fast that the camera cannot detect it.
So it was open when I came out, and I didn't notice it. I walked right by it. I wasn't paying any attention.
It probably tried to
get my attention.
Check. Who was that? Who passed by?
You can hear the door click.
Yeah, but it's not moving.
No, but you hear something else after it clicks. Here it goes. Something weird.
Is that your microphone recording it?
What's that?
Is somebody breathing or something?
What we're discussing is some kind of a dragging sound that the door makes when it originally opened at 7 in the morning that we were unable to replicate no matter how hard we tried. Listen and compare the sound in these two clips. The first clip is from when the door opened up when it hadn't been shut all the way. We stood there and watched it open within a minute or so by itself. The second clip is of the door opening at 7 o'clock in the morning when it had been shut all night long after I walked past it. In the second clip, you'll hear what sounds like the door dragging on carpet or something after it clicks and starts to slide open, but the door is high enough that it clears the carpet. I can't figure out what it is. Definitely sounds like it's dragging, but there isn't anything for it to drag on.
It's like somebody came out.
It doesn't make that noise when you open it.
thing that can open it. See, look.
Did you latch it?
I did.
Gotta make sure it's latched.
We wasted about another 15 minutes trying to get the door to stay closed. Once we finally got it closed, we decided to leave it alone, and it did not come open again on its own for the next 4 days. Did any of this analysis bore you? Well, the truth is, unlike what you see on TV with ghost hunters, ghost adventures, dead files, things like that, most investigations are very tedious. You spend a lot of time going over information to try to prove or disprove it. Just before 3, we gave up and headed for Santa Barbara. "13 minutes later, our cell sensor buddy was back. "3 minutes later, again, almost to the second, it would shut itself off. And again, it would activate about an hour and a half later. This time stronger than it did before. Now it's running maybe 5 milligauss. Again, just a couple of seconds short of 3 minutes, it clicks off. I'm beginning to wonder now if there's not something in the room underneath us that's set on some kind of a timer, a 3-minute timer. I've never known a ghost to carry around a stopwatch with him. On the other hand, I don't know anything that would be strong enough to go through the floor to be able to activate this cell sensor. We've had it happen a couple of times, but it was only because we were over parts of the hotel where they had equipment running, such as a walk-in freezer one time with a compressor on top of it that was only a couple of feet below the roof. That same roof was our floor and the room up above. These cell sensor units are actually a construction tool used in the trade to measure EMF radiation coming off of wall sockets. They're set to 50 and 60 hertz, and sometimes they won't pick up stuff in a room. Paranormal activity, which hangs around long enough to be measured on a portable oscilloscope, is usually found to be down in the 20 hertz or lower level, which means that these units won't pick it up because they're operating at a frequency response which is too high. Although they will pick up radio frequency radiation, they are shielded against picking up the actual radio waves themselves. So this activity is a mystery. No more than 6 minutes later, we return from Santa Barbara. It's amazing how that cell sensor unit seems to know when we're on and off the property and time its activation periods accordingly, even if it is on this odd, predictable 3-minute cycle. A few minutes later, we're back out for dinner. About an hour and a half later, the cell sensor activity returns, but this time it goes a little bit longer than the 3-minute period by about 12 seconds. I guess the ghost dropped his stopwatch after all. We returned to the room for the evening a little past 9 p.m.
Door's still shut. We're home. You can open it now.
Nope, that would be all of the activity for that first day. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the REM pod went off, but after looking at it, I decided that it was the battery that was going down.
And that's something new that we didn't have the first night. Now something's coming through and it's found the REM pod, but it looks like the battery's starting to run down on it. It's not very loud.
In testing, we have proved that once a proximity detector starts to lose its power, it detects its own collapsing field.
Got to be replaced.
As has also been claimed by others during the evening while sleeping, there was a couple of times that I was awakened by tapping or a slight bang on the headboard wall behind me. So it gave us rise to want to take a look at what might cause this.
Here we have the scenario of the back wall, which supposedly has tapping coming out of its wall a lot of times. People have recorded it. The way that this wall is designed, there's a 45-degree angle to the slope of the outside of the building, and yet in here they've layered the wall with plasterboard of some kind so that they could make the wall vertical and put the bed and the dresser unit against it. So on the other side of this wall there's a dead space which is about equal to the length of that wall right there being laid down. That dead space has been there for 100 years.
Yeah, and 100 years is a long time for any form of noise contamination to take place behind those walls.
Those are the windows to the room. And on each side of the room, right there where you see the lattice work kind of come down there, there's a dead space on each side.
That's a big area for possible noise contamination.
So on top of our room, there's a vent right there on the very top that you can see that doesn't have any screen behind it. It's not sealed up.
And vents like these are all around the roof of the property.
In fact, now that we talk about it, there's a couple of happy contenders right there.
There's vents all around this property. It's a very large property, and my guess is it also has a very large common attic.
Like the house of seven gables.
Yeah, it does. Looks like the House of Seven Gables. I brought the ball in here now to set against the door to be able to tell if the door actually opens or not. The ball will be kicked across the room. If the door should open and close, the ball will be moved, but the door will appear to be the way that it was.
On this second day, there was no potential activity recorded at all. At a little past 7 a.m., awakened once again by the REM pod.
REM pod goes off, one light. There it is again. What are you doing over there? Go ahead, make it go off. Go ahead.
Once again, this was due to inefficient battery life. Curious, because they usually last longer than this.
It's like you're getting weak again. Maybe your battery's running down.
9:40 a.m., we left the room for the day to go to Universal Studios. These doors are keycard access, self-locking as soon as you shut the door from the outside. As we are now headed down the hall, the microphone picks up one of these odd sounds that I told you about that happens in the walls. There's nothing in the room that appeared to move. Here it is, amplified. It's not the air conditioning unit, which you can hear in the background is already running, and none of our equipment makes any noises like that. Almost 6 hours later, at 3:27, the cell sensor unit in the closet activates once again. This time it only lasts for about 2 minutes. And again, 2 hours later, around 5:30, it goes off for the last time. This time it only lasts for 1 minute and 27 seconds, which tends to discredit that 3-minute mark that was made in the previous recordings. At 11 o'clock we return to the room. End of activity. At 4:16 in the morning, a very strong odor of a perfume-like substance woke me up. Of course, no camera or microphone can record this activity. It can only be detected through the nostrils of a living animal. And I didn't want to speak and wake Jan up, but you can see right here as I make the motion towards the camera that something that I'm smelling woke me up. It was a very sweet-smelling scent that I had not smelled in the room at all in the last 4 days. In absence of any readily definable source, this is paranormal activity carried into the room through an electromagnetic field, or that paranormal activity itself has an inherent scent to it. As we left the room that morning to check out and walked into that red hallway, I realized that on the walls there are these deodorizer things that give out a scent spray every, I don't know, hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. And that was what I was smelling. There's one of them right there. He's right across from our door. But in the 4 days we were in the room, we had never once smelled them in the room. Something had carried that scent into the room. We feel that we proved, at least our satisfaction, that, due to the settling of the building and a gentle slope to the floor, the effects of gravity will cause the door to pop open in seconds up to 2 minutes. We performed a dozen static tests on this, and at no time did the door stay closed for a longer than a 2-minute period. On the other hand, if the door is securely fastened as proved by pulling on the doorknob, then this door will not open on its own unless the lock plate mechanism is manipulated either by turning the doorknobs or some other method.
This knob here, when I try to yank it, that is very firm. You cannot pull it open. You actually have to turn that knob in order for that door to open.
Since this door initially opened on its own after 6 hours of being dormant, without any vibrations that may have affected it being identified, we therefore feel that the other investigators were correct and that the door to this closet is paranormally active. From observation, I also feel that it is only the door that is active and not the closet itself. It appears that only the door is part of the original structure. If we were to do a return investigation, we would lace the closet with surveillance cameras and various EMF detectors to see how far and what depth that EMF field that set off the cell sensors was going to. Sticky note to manager: adjust the door jamb lock plate and oil the mechanism so that people can actually capture activity rather than just the effects of gravity. As far as the cell sensors going off, they did not go off a single time when we were in the room. And taking into account that sleeping hours and hours that we spent in the room between trips consisted of most of the time of our stay, that defies the law of averages. Whereas the first 3 times the detector went off consisted of 3 minutes minus about 2 seconds each time, it led me to believe that there was some kind of a timer on something in the room below, but then subsequent captures did not hold to that timeline. I wish we had seen the room below in order to rule it out, but it could be that that 3-minute period is also residual energy that lies within the door, that perhaps whatever caused that energy to be there was about 3 minutes in duration while it was created. For the time being, we're going to go with the idea that perhaps it is related to whatever causes the door to open. The cell sensor going off on Jan's headboard was expected paranormal activity that we experience in any place that we investigate that has paranormal activity ever since we were in the Stanley. Due to the unique architectural design of the building, the tapping noises heard behind the headboard wall we did not try to prove or disprove. In the absence of any immediate and discernible source, the scent that traveled into the room and woke me up can only be considered as paranormal. So all in all, what activity level did we rate the Glen Tavern Inn at? Well, this is the longest investigation we've ever done, where we've left our cameras running continuously at one location. We had a chance to judge it a little bit better. Since we went 1 day without any activity at all, the activity level rating cannot be consistent. It has to be sporadic. So we gave the Glen Tavern Inn a rating of moderate and sporadic. Now our video can be added to the 100 that are already online. Oh, remember I said that only one of those videos perked my interest? It's the one by Azteca America. Just go ahead to YouTube and do a search on Azteca America Glen Tavern Inn and it'll pull it right up. I'm not going to cheap shot them by trying to throw it on here and put it in border or something so it looks like a parody. But you'll get to see what appears to be a partial apparition walk out of the doorway of room 307, the room that we stayed in. That was good work. The video is in Spanish, but the capture doesn't need any interpretation. That's our door to room 307 illuminating the hallway. You compare this with the film that the Azteca channel took, you'll see that the apparition that they captured walked out of that doorway.